make a video giving people some advice on basic conditioning of your hands for art, for painting, and painting. Yeah, so painting requires, it's different than just sketching and drawing, and I have periodic down moments where I'm not painting as much, and that's because I have my own issues when I paint. The textures stay in my vision, and everything will look like a painting, and it gets kind of weird. It's a little itchy almost. And I love painting, which is the problem. And so one way during my down periods, and I'm going to show one of my drawings, is that I learned that handwriting is very advantageous. So write poetry or just anything that's really in your brain. Writing in general and focusing on your penmanship will really help with paint control. However, when it comes to formulating an image, if you have the connection of being able to write out what your brain is feeling or thinking or doing, and then you can do that without really focusing, you're just kind of sitting there, it allows you to enter this state of mind that meditation produces and martial arts help produce, where you're not allowing your brain to really corrupt necessarily. But then you have this fine line where you need to understand what working paint too much is or too little, and then to understand when something is just right and how to leave it and never touch it again. So anyway, like this. So this, I will draw out my entire portrait before I start painting it. And on the video, it looks like it's Stephen Hawking. It is not Stephen Hawking, but it's weird. Anyway, as compared to that, which is a totally different technique and philosophy behind it, and this is going to be a full realization of my own style. That, see, I will sit and just think about it for months and think about every line, how I want to do every little thing. As with that, I drew out the main outlines, and there's nothing really you can do wrong because you're just painting a bunch of squares. And so you have all this freedom with that style where you don't have to pressure yourself, because it's eventually going to look like what you expect it to look like. And then you can just paint all these squares how you want to paint them. And so when I painted that, every little square was kind of like its own little painting. And that was so much fun. And anyway, so I will draw out the entire thing like that. And he's not entirely done. But what that does also is like penmanship. So it gets you, acquainted with the painting. And let's see here. I got this I actually hand painted freehand. This was a study I did. See, you can see like I'm learning how to freehand and shade with that elephant, while he looks a little bit more proper and the shading's a little more developed, right? The obelisk is kind of funny. But so when you're freehand painting and you don't have your muscles developed, you're developing your muscles throughout the painting. And you're not going to be able to go back, because the first layer of paint, if you start painting over paint, you can always tell. It just does not look good. The textures are ruined, and the painting's basically ruined, if you really want to make something worth looking at. And I've been looking at that for 16 years, and I enjoy it every single day that I see it. And I remember painting it, and 16 years, time flies. Anyway, so, yeah, writing poetry helps condition your brain and your muscles. Writing a journal for me also physics and stuff, like, so I'm trying to get out a lot of theories within, you know, the quantum model physics, and so you're trying to conceptualize what's in here. See, I can hold it in my hands, but how do I put it on paper so that it is what is in here? And that's the most difficult part, and that's no different than painting. And so every time you have a down period, what do they call it? It's a perishable skill is what it is. And so you have to be consistently working on your endurance, right, and your conditioning, your hands and everything to because people will go to these art classes and they want to paint a picture and they're expecting to sit down and come up with something that's in their brain is what it is, but they don't understand why what they make, they look at it and they get disappointed or discouraged. And everybody can paint, and anybody can paint well. It's just that you have to have that link. And so what really defines the artist is having various philosophies and overlining philosophies and stuff like that. I have my own interpretations, my own philosophies, but my greatest pleasure is when you let somebody else look at it and they say something unique and they have their own individual interpretations. They will have their own likes and dislikes, and a truly great artist will, not everybody will necessarily love their work, but it's desirable to analyze for everybody in a way. And those are the best artists. Van Gogh and then Monet, is that you might not necessarily like a lot of Monet's work, but you're still going to look at it and you're going to feel something from it, and you're going to think about it. And to me, I study the textures and I put my mind in the mind of that artist, and you can see how they painted something by studying their textures, and that correlates back, it traces back through their arm into their brain. And so through handwriting and all that, that is how you develop a skill set so that you don't get discouraged. You don't want to, and it's something everybody should do. But you're not an artist. We say that word for people who call yourself a painter. Other people will call you an artist, is what it is. Never go, I'm an artist, right? Typically I say I'm a painter. At this point, I don't know. I have so much fucking thought and consideration that, who knows? I still feel the same way about that painting. When I'm dead, maybe people will call me an artist. I don't know. Maybe they already do. Who knows? But I don't think there's a room of people sitting around talking about my works. So it's just like, it's best to be the person, leave behind something worth looking at. And as long as you spend enough time on something, anything can look good before it looks bad again. That's another issue. Overworking a texture, or overworking, because you can only get that texture just right one time. Then you have to get it right again. So you can remove the paint and retry it, and you can get it right again. But you're wasting paint, and paint's expensive. So, I don't know, whenever I'm going to start on him, the left side of his head looks like fuzz. How the hell did I do that? I would still work on the proportions. He's got a really interesting forehead and cranial structure to him. And it is not Stephen Hawking, but it looks like him in the video. It's weird. Anyway, yeah, just write. And write and write. And draw and draw. You ain't gonna be able to do it any other way. You can't just sit down and expect to be the one guy in a generation of people who can just sit down and, because if you were that guy, you would have already done it, wouldn't you? Why would you wait till you're in an art class or something? Why would you wait